Well, that was terrific. I think they stuck right on script, was to keep moving, introduce really great ideas, and I think they set a good pace and a good tempo. I'd like to invite our next whole group up. You guys can move from the right-hand side of the stage. And we are now welcoming 4 high school students from the state of Minnesota, both rural and suburban and urban, and we are delighted. You may recall last year we introduced for the first time a panel of high school students, and hearing first person from their voice what the issues are that they and their peers are talking about, what they're concerned about, really I thought added a lot of energy. We're looking forward to their remarks today. We asked Kari Denissen Cunnien, who is the executive director of Ignite After-School program. Many of you know Kari for her great commitment to after-school programming and previously at Sprockets. We asked her to lead the pulling together of this panel and to provide the MC work for this panel. Please welcome Kari Denissen Cunnien.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. This room is beautiful. I love it. I love all the faces and all the energy. Are you guys feeling powerful? We're going to do some great work over the next year for children and youth in the state. I am with Ignite After School, and for those of you who are less familiar with our work, I wanted to say a few comments on that before we get going. Ignite is Minnesota's statewide after-school network, and we bring partners together from all over the state who are engaged in making sure that every young person in every single community has access to high-quality after-school and summer learning opportunities. And, you know, as I've been out meeting with partners around the state, I am always just heartened by the great work that's happening and also the vision and the goals and the plans that folks have in communities all over the state. To not only engage young people in leadership and learning, but also to really improve and strengthen the quality of opportunities for young people, because there's some great research over the last decade that shows when we provide high quality learning opportunities for young people during the summer and after school, it has such amazing outcomes. But in order to do that, we really have to pay attention to quality. At Ignite, we're really excited to be coming out in April with a statewide guidebook to lay out the effective practices for quality after school. And, you know, the other thing that Ignite does is really works on policy and looks at if we're going to provide these high quality opportunities, what is the resources that it takes and how do we make a fair investment? When we're really looking at that cradle to career continuum, we want to link together all those strategies that work, because it's not just one or the other. It's all of them put together that makes a difference in a young person's life. But, you know, another thing that I think is really important about after school are some of our core beliefs and values. And one of our core beliefs that guides us as a network is that young people today, right now, have many strengths, abilities, and leadership skills that contribute positively to our communities. We believe deeply in the power of youth-adult partnerships, and we believe that both adults and young people, when they learn together, when they talk with one another, when they share ideas, we come up with better solutions to the problems that face all of us across the different ages. And high-quality after-school programs strive to do this every day. They strive to create these strong youth-adult partnerships. And so I was really, really honored when I was asked to MC this part of the event, because I thought this is perfect. We're at the 2015 Children and Youth Issues Briefing, and so we're going to be briefed on policy issues by young people. And that there couldn't be a more perfect opportunity, I don't think. So at Ignite, as I said, we are a network. We have many, many partners. And one of our really important partners is the Minnesota Youth Council. And I also want to give just a shout out to the Minnesota Alliance with Youth, my friends. I know you're out there. They provide all of the coordination and facilitation and support for the Minnesota Youth Council. And Minnesota is truly unique to be a state that has put together a formal group of young people to advise the legislature on policy issues. So our panelists with us today, we have Karina and Heather and Zach and Rogelio, and they bring diverse perspectives. As Frank mentioned, they attend high schools in rural, suburban, and urban communities, and they have a diverse set of goals. Of course, being a little biased, I did ask them what they do after school, what their after-school activities are. And it's a range from playing violin in an orchestra. We have athletes, track and football, a percussionist. I know that Heather's on her way to a national conference with 4-H, and she's very active there, and Karina in drama. And we also have an aspiring surgeon. We put the policy wonk down there. Zach, he wants to be a political scientist. I told him he's in good company at this event. We sat him next to the aspiring economist, so we have to be careful because I'm pretty sure they're going to have some new policy ideas by the end of this event, as well as mathematician. So that's a little bit about our youth panelists. And they're going to talk about some really important issues about how we really talking about the quality of teachers in our schools, about college affordability, and also about after school. So enough from me. I'm going to turn it over, and we're going to start with Karina. She's going to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Youth Council.
Good morning. So my name is Karina, and this is my first year on the Minnesota Youth Council. And today I'm going to tell you what the Minnesota Youth Council is about. Since we're youths, we don't get many opportunities, and I think the Minnesota Youth Council has helped tremendously with that. Now, the Minnesota Youth Council is a collaboration of youth and adults working together to empower and mobilize youth across the state to exercise their voices. The council is very diverse and has many opinions from people, whether it be youths or adults. The purpose of this organization is to strengthen our youth's voice and take action with what they feel needs change. The council is made up of 36 members, and it ranges from 8th grade all through 12th grade from all over the state of Minnesota. They work through 3 standing youth-led committees, and our committees are policy, philanthropy, and education. As committees, we meet once a month and discuss our committee's work depending on what it is, and then we meet once online again as a full council and inform each other on what we are doing as separate committees. We're also divided up into districts, and I'm, for example, District 7, so is Heather, and yeah, so at these retreats we learn about leadership. We learn about good and bad leaders, how to become a leader, what leaders are, and I think that is very, very important. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 committees, and all of us here are on the policy committee. The policy committee selects bills in the House and Senate for consideration for a public hearing, proposes youth legislation, provides advisory opinions to the legislator on bills to be heard, and have discussed providing a youth omnibus bill. Also, the committee is an official advising group to the state legislator since 2013 Minnesota Youth Committee Bill. The committee meets at the Capitol several times throughout the year and advises members of legislature on youth-related bills and updates them on the MYC's work. The Philanthropy Committee works on distributing money, and last year they created mini grants to support organizations in each congressional district working on one of these issues. They also developed a documentary film to highlight the issues. They also created and facilitated an activity to lead fellow MYC members through a decision-making process regarding distributing the mini grants of a total of $50,000 throughout the 8 congressional districts. They've also partnered with Youth Prize. The Education Committee strives to ensure equal access to learning opportunities and increase options available for students in order to create a better educational experience. The committee also works in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Education, and together the Youth and the Education Committee make up the Student Advisory Committee to the MDE, a group that advises the Commissioner of Education and the other MDE staff on youth issues. As you can see, all of our committees have very important work to uphold. And throughout the year, we are given assignments, and this year it was brought up that we do a virtual town hall. And so District 7 has decided to do virtual town hall with the Commissioner of Education, Brenda Casilius. And it was done, and we discussed with her bullying and what needs to be done to end it. And overall, it was very successful. The other districts have yet to do the virtual town hall. So before I go, there's a quote that I feel explains why we are here today. And the quote is by a phenomenal poet, and his name is Carl Sandburg. The quote is, "Time is a coin in your life. Is the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent." And so we are here today to determine how we want to spend our coin. We are spending it with the hope of change. So thank you, and next up will be Heather presenting her speech. Thank you.
Hi everyone, happy Friday. Hi, I'm Heather and I'm a very proud second-year member of the Minnesota Youth Council. As you heard, the council is made up of 8th to 12th graders from all over Minnesota. We are youth that care about making a difference, changing the world, and being the best people that we can be. Most of us have big plans for our future, and those big plans depend on us being able to graduate from college. But I've heard from many of the youth council members and youth around Minnesota that they feel that the issue of college affordability is a major concern for them. Higher education is the single most important investment that youth can make in their futures, increasing their future earnings and lowering their risk of unemployment. Millions of high-paying jobs require a bachelor's degree or more just to apply. And 63% of job openings in the next 5 years will require at least some college education. According to White House data, the average tuition for a 4-year college has increased more than 250% over the past 3 decades. Meanwhile, the income for a typical family has only increased 16%. The combination of rising tuition costs and crippling student loan payments is forcing many to leave college early or pass on higher education altogether. The United States only ranks 12th in the world for the percentage of young adults completing their college education. Student loans should be a pathway to opportunity, not to years of crushing debt. Too many young people struggle under the weight of unaffordable loans, which hurts the economy by limiting their ability to buy a home or a car, or even start a family. Minnesota students have the 3rd highest amount of debt in the USA when they leave college with a 4-year degree, as well as the 5th largest amount of total students that leave college with debt. At the end of 2003, American students and graduates owed $253 billion in student debt. By the end of 2013, American students' debt had ballooned to a total of $1.08 trillion. That's an increase of over 300%. Today's graduates can expect to spend 5 to 25 years paying off their student loans, with today's senior citizens owing over $36 million in student loans. You can see from just this little bit of data why I and other youth council members care about this issue. And we are glad we're not the only ones talking about it. We are tracking conversations at the legislature about the high cost of higher education. Some of those proposals and conversations include Governor Mark Dayton declaring in his inaugural speech that we need a state of educational excellence. The governor highlighted a number of education priorities, including adequate funding support for early learning and high school to post-secondary success. Senate DFL leaders unveiled Senate File 2, which is similar to what President Obama is proposing and would have the state pay education costs of students who graduate from Minnesota high schools and attend 2-year vocational or community colleges. And the University of Minnesota's president, Eric Kaler, pitched to legislatures the university's $65.2 million request for state funding to cover tuition fees for its students over the next 2 years. These kind of proposals and ideas are very compelling, and the Minnesota Youth Council will continue to track them and stay part of the conversation this year. My hope is that next year at this event, we'll have great news to share on how we are making college more affordable for young people in Minnesota. Thank you for being here and caring about Minnesota's youth. Next up is Rogelio.
All right, hello. Well, my name is Rogelio. I'm a junior at Highland Park High School right here in St. Paul. And I'm here to talk to you about a bill that is commonly referred to as the last in, first out bill for the next legislative session. And before I talk to you about that bill, I'm going to talk to you about a teacher I had who was my freshman year world history teacher at Highland Park. So what was interesting about this class was that it was the first immersion program of any language being taught in a core subject in a Minnesota high school level. So it was a continuation of the Adams Spanish Immersion Elementary and Highland Park Middle School program that I was a part of, and it's a great program. But the problem with the high school curriculum was that there was a pretty big lack of details that he was supposed to teach us. So what he ended up having to do as a teacher was translate every document that was provided to English social studies, and he had to translate the study guides, the packets, to give to us so we had something to learn. So he was the hardest working teacher I've ever had, but he was also just the most enthusiastic educator I've had to this day. And that's what you want as a student. That's like the dream teacher, is someone who you know works hard and someone who's enthusiastic and prepared for his job day in and day out. So I tell you about this teacher because not only did he impact my life, but he impacted the life of my entire class, of all the classes he taught. He cared more about how I was going to do outside of high school, how I would act when I graduate, rather than just how many dates I could learn from the world history textbook. He told us stories of his life because he had experienced so much sort of events that shaped him to who he was. And he told us about sort of the dangers of drugs in 9th grade with stories that would make you guys tear up. It was really powerful that he was our teacher, and he shaped me in a lot of ways that I don't think I could ever repay him with. But the reason I tell you this story is because he was a first-year teacher. He ended up being moved schools, even though he was arguably the hardest working social studies teacher and the most enthusiastic one there. So what this last in, first out bill essentially does is change the way we evaluate teachers to have a more important emphasis on things like relationship building. Okay. So this bill emphasizes on relationship building. The criteria includes things like engaging the student, coming to class prepared, and how students respond. So why I think this bill is important to students is because it provides the best teachers for the students of Minnesota high school, middle schools, elementaries, and kindergarten classes and everything. It's important to have relationship building skills like the teacher I had, because those are the teachers that respond best with students despite how long they've been there. If students respond to that teacher, I believe they deserve to be the teacher at the school they have been in. So why this bill is important to teachers as well is because it doesn't disregard tenure, because obviously experience is something that's incredibly important as an educator, but it makes it more equal for teachers who don't have that tenure if they're producing results and they're getting good results from their students, that they belong in the schools that they want to teach at. So this bill focuses on relationships. It focuses on getting the best teachers to the students of Minnesota schools, which already have great teachers, and it's a step in the right direction, and it's a step that really emphasizes the importance of teachers to students, and that's why the Minnesota Youth Council has such importance to this bill, and why we're hoping to hear it in the next legislative session as well. So I thank you, and I introduce to you Zach.
Good morning, everyone. I am Zach. I am a junior at Woodbury High School, and of course, Woodbury. As like the members before me, I'm also a member of the Minnesota Youth Council. And as you heard from them, we're looking at many bills during this legislative session, but we have taken a special interest in Ignite After School's request for increasing after-school funding by $50 million for the next millennium. As many of you know and can see on the edge, kind of like an airplane right there, there is an achievement gap in Minnesota between students of color and students who are white, and students of higher income and students that are in lower income. And many in this room have said we need to fix this, and that's true. We do need to fix this. But what has been proposed many times over is this increasing the basic education budget. But increasing the basic is not enough. We need to do more. Need to do more for our students, and one way to do that is through after-school programs. These programs help students achieve a better understanding of themselves, able to become better citizens, and are able to become more productive in our society. But also with these programs, they also become this better intrinsic value for students. I should know, I'm one of them. I participate in chamber orchestra and debate and political activism. All these provide more for a student than what their output is, what our GDP is. All these programs help students to become a better human being. By allowing these programs and allowing students to experience new people, different ideas, new people that disagree with them, they are able to become better people, This by having more exposure. You know, from an 8 to 3, you're in a room, a teacher's talking, you might do a project, but it's pretty structured. But after school program allows students to explore their interests, allow them to ask questions that are different than, hey, what is B on the test? They're able to get a better understanding of themselves and be able to have a better understanding of what their education truly means. Education is not this, what we learn from a textbook. It's what we learn as ourselves and as our people. At the current level, only one out of every $10 comes from the Minnesota government. Many organizations have stepped up to cover this gap, but it's still not enough. The state needs to pay more in order to ensure that this achievement gap that we are all aware of gets covered and fixed. Now, think back to when you were in school, a teenager. Think of all the amazing activities that you did, whether track or theater, lacrosse or choir. Now imagine you can't do that. Imagine that you say, hey, there's not enough funding in this budget here. You can't do that. Would you be sitting in this room? Would you be the ones making the decisions? I hope that answer to yourself will be no. We need to have this bill so that these people that are in the lowest level of society can be able to rise up and be where you are sitting today and possibly even higher. It was written by Thomas Jefferson that all men are created equal. Our country was founded on the idea of equality and equal opportunity. So why are we denying a certain portion of our population this right? If Minnesota is a city on a hill that we claim to be, then we need to provide for the equal treatment and equal opportunity for people that are in the lower, who are the lower people. Senator Paul Wellstone said that we all do better when we all do better. Then we should be able to allow people to do better. If we can spend $378 million on a new stadium in the town over, then we can certainly provide $50 million. So we can certainly spend $50 million in making sure that we have quality, equitable, and equal opportunities for students across either in rural Minnesota up in International Falls, in a suburb like Woodbury, or right here in St. Paul. So that one day these students can help bring Minnesota forward. Thank you.
That was a policy briefing, I would say. Wasn't that good? That was great. But, you know, there were so many rich issues that were brought up. I think we want to dig deeper with these young people and find out more about what they think about these issues, what's motivating them. And so we're going to have a little bit of a panel discussion. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce my colleague, Eyenga Bokamba. She's the executive director of Sprockets, which is St. Paul's Out of School Time Network. And a little bit about Eyenga. She is a former teacher. She's an artist. But one of the most important things that I appreciate about Eyenga is her vision and her ability to bring people together to go deeper and to take action. And she's going to help us go deeper with these young people with some great questions. And so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the young people who have spoken today. I want to just take a minute to give them another round of applause for their excellent remarks. Before I ask some questions, I would like to just contextualize a little bit about youth leadership and why I think it's so important. And I want to talk a little bit about something that exists today that didn't exist 28 years ago, if I'm doing my math right. And it's almost inconceivable that this didn't exist for all of time. And what I'm talking about is AmeriCorps. If you are connected to AmeriCorps in any way, shape, or form, if you are an AmeriCorps supervisor, if you are an AmeriCorps fellow, if you had an AmeriCorps fellowship 10 years ago, if you supervise AmeriCorps, please stand up. The reason I bring that up is that as a young activist and a young leader at the University of Minnesota, post-graduation, I had the opportunity to help write the National Community Service Trust Act of 1993, which became the fuel for AmeriCorps and all of the people that you see here today who are involved in AmeriCorps. And before we wrote that legislation, we didn't have any sense of whether or not it was going to work. We didn't know if anyone would catch the fire of national community service. We were treated as sort of outliers a little bit, rebel rousers. Oh my gosh, here they come again, talking about this national service stuff. Gosh, they really take up a lot of time. Whoa, I wish they would sort of hurry up. And what's interesting is that as I look back on that, that moment was very important for us as young leaders. We wanted to push this idea that young people should have opportunities to be leaders. Young people should have opportunities for civic engagement. Young people should have opportunities to shape our world. We were those young people at that moment in time. We passed the legislation. It led to AmeriCorps. It led to opportunities for young people to serve. And now we're sitting at a moment in time again where young people have issues that they are working on, very, very, very important issues that 20 years from now we'll look back on this moment and say, I can't believe that we were in a moment where we didn't have that legislation. Now we have it, and it's just a given. So I just really want us to look around the room, look at these young people here, these young leaders, and acknowledge this moment. What's today's date? 23rd of January. 2015. You guys know that 2015 is the Back to the Future year. Yeah. So we are in the Back to the Future year, okay? And we are in the future. We are living the future. We are shaping the future right now. So again, let's give some acknowledgement to the work that's been done by these young people. So I have had the good fortune of meeting them only once, and it was via Skype. And, you know, when I do those things, I never know where to put my eyes. Like, am I looking at the top? Am I looking at the bottom? So anyway, it was a very interesting experience. This is the first time we're together. And it's really the Minnesota Youth Alliance. Can you stand up, Frank? Who's been working with these young people to craft their leadership. So I am very honored to have this opportunity to do a deeper dive into serious legislative issues and to really look at the motivational structure and some of the assumptions that these young leaders are making. So what I'd like to do is start first with a question about assumptions. The question is, what assumptions are you making in this work? And let me give a little bit of an example. In my work as the executive director of Sprockets, I'm making the assumption that all young people have something to contribute to our society, and they just need the opportunity to share their brilliance. That's my assumption. It's a glass half full assumption. Each of these leaders has an assumption that they're moving from in terms of the work that they've been doing with the legislature. So let's turn it to them now. What are the assumptions that you are making in your work?
Okay, I'll go. Well, mine's pretty similar to Eyenga, where I do believe that given the opportunity, people can find what they're passionate about and what they want to do with those opportunities. But the problem is that not everyone has those opportunities, and that's something I think Ignite After School is doing an excellent job with, because I've had friends who I've tried to get to do activities that I'm doing, but they couldn't do them because they couldn't pay for them, which I think is a shame, because I knew they would have loved those activities and it could have changed their life, but unfortunately they didn't have those opportunities. So it's pretty similar to Eyenga's, where I do believe people can reach their full potential given opportunities.
For me, I honestly think where we live right now is just a beautiful place. And granted, there are flaws within this. And I think if we all just unite and all help each other and work together, I honestly think that we can make this the best it can be.
Okay, I think that youth have so much potential. They just need a place to show it. They need that opportunity to show that they have that potential. And they need to be able to follow their passion later on in life, like with college affordability. If they have something they're passionate about but can't afford to go to college, they're not going to be able to grow up to do what they want and to be those leaders of our world.
I had to say that my assumption would be that people are willing to listen. I mean, you're listening, so I guess that proves that true. But they're able to they're able to listen to youth, and like youth, like they believe that youth have a voice and that youth can bring stuff to the table to help solve these problems.
Excellent. Thank you. My second question out of 3 questions, I have about 9 minutes and 32 seconds. What made you motivated to get involved, and what motivates you to stay involved?
Okay, I can go. For me, some of you may not know, but I'm originally from Egypt, and coming here, I moved to the United States about almost 4 years ago, and seeing the opportunities that children do have here is just a phenomenal thing, opportunities that people in the Middle East do not have. And so it's just, okay, what was the question again?
What motivates you? What motivates you to stay involved?
Just trying to make a change. I think motivating each other. I think we have this hope and a little bit of a glance into the future, and we want to accomplish something, and I think we all motivate each other and help each other try and accomplish something.
So as Mahatma Gandhi once said, be the change that you wish to see in the world. That's one thing that really helps motivate me and will help me stay motivated. Like, you can't just sit back. You have to do what you want to see changed. It's not just going to happen with a snap of the finger. You have to work for it. You have to push. And I hope to inspire others to do that. All young people, they have so much potential, like I said. So if they just work and be the change that they want to see, I think we can help make this world a better place.
Okay, so about me, both my parents are both immigrants from Mexico, and neither of them really, they sort of worked in fields for a long time, and then decided to get their education because they thought it was important. And now they're living these great lives, and I keep thinking, well, if they came up through those ranks, sort of, what can I do having that sort of support from the start? How far could I make it? And at an early age, I need to give a shout out to Breakthrough St. Paul, because they've been an organization early on that really helped me with that, and now the Minnesota Youth Council as well. So they've sort of inspired me, and just the people that have been around me have supported me and been able to help me achieve as much as I can, given the platform I've been given as well.
I gotta say with mine that, you know, I'm a white male. I come from a privileged family, but people don't have that. So I really want to make sure that people that really want to, you know, put in the hard work, want to, you know, put in the time and the effort, and they have the opportunity to be able to, you know, be able to voice their opinions, be able to get stuff done as youth. And what really keeps me going is that, you know, 20 years ago, we didn't have this body here. There weren't people talking about, oh, youth can bring something to the table. So seeing that change and seeing, you know, stuff actually be accomplished, it really helps, like, motivate me to keep on saying, keep on pushing people so that even more and more youth can get involved.
Fantastic. So the final question today is, what is the urgency of your issue? Think about this question as one final pitch for what you believe in and what you would like to see happen. And again, one of the things about the human brain is that we need a picture to be painted of what we want the world to look like. And so if you could, in your final remarks, paint that picture for us. If you are successful with the work that you're doing with the legislature, what would that look like for you, specifically tied to your issue?
Well, specifically with the bill I talked about, I feel it's incredibly important to focus on relationships with teachers, because teachers are the ones who teach students, obviously, and it's important to have the best teachers you can have, because education is more important now than it ever has been in the past, because you can't necessarily graduate high school and get a high-paying job anymore. This isn't sort of like a time where that's possible, because the skill premium is so incredible. You need to graduate to have a high-paying job. And I think it's becoming more and more of a reality where the best social program is becoming an education. So in my, I guess, with this bill or something just being successful, it's just improving the education system in Minnesota.
Well, my issue is college affordability, and I feel that every youth should have the opportunity to go to college, to pursue their dreams, to grow up to be what they want to be. And so if we can give every single youth that opportunity and to have them have, I guess, their dream job when they're older, that will make them more motivated in their jobs, and it will pass on from generation to generation, and we'll definitely be able to see everybody motivated and hopefully be living a happier life.
I think for me, well, I really had no issue, but just seeing the kids, the youth, me being in the Minnesota Youth Council, rather us, we learn a lot of things that help us see this world, and we learn how to help others, and we learn leadership. And with this organization, it's helping us, it's helping shape our lives. And I think that if we can get the word out there that, hey, even though you're a youth, you can still speak up, you can still work together and work with adults and make a change. You can still do that even though you're a young youth. And I think that's what the Minnesota Youth Council has helped tremendously with.
I say with mine, with increasing after-school funding, is that like one day that the circumstances of one birth should be like irrelevant. That doesn't matter what race or where you're starting off and like your income for your family's income. That like you have the same opportunities, you have the same potential to, and people would give you the same opportunities to allow the student to be able to rise up and be able to go as same place as a person that lives as like the same person, a low income and a middle income and a high income can all reach the same place. So that's really about it.
That about sums it up. We are out of time, but the issues remain and the work continues. And on behalf of Sprockets and on behalf of the Minnesota Youth Council and Ignite, I want to thank you for your attention. I would encourage you to keep the conversations going with these young people and get your pens for your autographs because we'll need them. You can auction them off on eBay in 20 years because they're doing fantastic work. Thank you so much.